Welcome back to Doing Football. More running back rankings for you today, 6 through 10. Yesterday was 1 through 5, so make sure you check out the previous video to see where our ranking started, where we're coming into today. Tyler McKillop, Jared Hall. Jared, opening notes. Please tell the people what they need to do.
Subscribe, like, comment. Go join us in the Discord. We're going to start discussing more football-related stuff on there.
Yes, Discord. I missed that in the last video. Definitely join the Discord. The football talk, the fantasy football talk is going to ramp up as we get closer to the season. It's ranking season, as I said in the last video. So let's get to number 6. I know we've already talked about this guy in the last video for you. So go ahead with who you have at number 6 in your running back rankings. We didn't
actually.
Oh, we did? No, we didn't.
It's 7.
Even later. Jared doesn't even like this guy. I forgot.
My number 6, Ezekiel Elliott of the Dallas Cowboys. Last year, he had a bit of a down year, but I think that can mainly be attributed.
A bit of a down year.
It honestly was just a bit. He was still, I think, the running back 11 or 10 or something like that in PPR. Like, there was 2 main factors for Zeke having a down year last year: Dak Prescott's injury and the offensive line injuries.
Well, the offensive line is older.
Yes.
They lost Frederick at center, which is a big piece of the offensive line. Now, with Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott averaged 4.1 yards per carry, a 56% success rate, and overall a plus 0.00 estimated points added per attempt. So,
do you want to know how many
plus player? Without Dak Prescott, 3.9 yards per attempt. So really, how much was it Andy Dalton? How much was it the quarterback play?
Maybe do you want to know how many points he scored when Dak Prescott was on the field? In his 5 games with Dak, he averaged 20.7 half PPR points per game.
That'll do it.
That is running back, what, 2?
20. Well,
this offense,
not 2. It wouldn't be 2.
This offense is going to score so many points.
If he had 20.7, he'd be like 4 or 5.
No, not that low.
Well, because to 30 McCaffrey.
Sorry,
in a full season, McCaffrey would be 1 at like 20 or almost 30.
Yeah.
Kamara and Dalvin would have been in like 25.
I don't think they were that high.
I'm pretty sure they were.
We'd have to go back and look. Insane numbers. Like 25 per game is like.
Maybe it was 20. Okay,
guaranteed
so
to be
at
RB1.
20, I still think he'd be like 4 or 5. He wouldn't
be 2. Somebody in the
2.
comments. This is half PPR too. Somebody in the comments.
Okay, half PPR. Okay, that's my bad then. Half PPR. I didn't hear you there.
See, Tmack, he's never listening.
Yeah, I'm only thinking about what I want to say next.
No, Zeke is going to return to that top 5 running back form that we saw. This offense is elite. He catches more passes than everyone thinks. He gets like over 50 catches a year. He's going to be so involved in this offense. Tony Pollard, sure, he's a decent backup, but he's really not going to take much of what Zeke is getting.
He had a better expected yards per attempt than Zeke did.
He's not better than Zeke just because he was more efficient.
What does the offense want to do, guys? The offense wants to, when they're running the ball, they want to run it as far as they can. And you know who runs it farther? Tony Pollard.
Zeke is their number 1 guy, and that will not change.
That will not change. I will admit that will not change. But Pollard is more efficient and might eat up some of the carries.
No.
It might happen, Jared.
Zeke will be a top 5 running back this year, potentially. Although I can't say that because I have him at 6, but he will be higher than what everyone thinks.
Here's what I think is I'm not drafting Ezekiel Elliott as the 6th. Yeah, but at number 6. I'm not drafting him at number 6. I'm drafting Ezekiel Elliott if I think that he brings value to my team because people are much, much lower on him than they were the previous season. Right now, if I'm taking him as the 6th running back off the board, that's only a few spots from what you would have seen him at last year. So to me, he's a little farther down in my list.
I guess we disagree there. Let's go to your 6.
Okay. My 6 is Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. So last season, he saw the 8th most rushing attempts per game. He averaged 22.2 touches a game in the last 6 weeks. So in the first week of the season, I think he saw about 8. He was still getting eased into the offense and what they expected from him, not having a preseason, limited time in camp. He was eased into the offense. Now, at 22.2 touches a game in the last 6 weeks, this would be similar to David Montgomery, who was the RB4 last season, at 23 touches per game. And David Montgomery was a league-winning running back because the second half of the season he was on a completely different level than he was in the first half. So if Jonathan Taylor sees 22, 23 touches per game and is adding those what surprised me when I'm looking back to 2020 is he had 300 receiving yards last year. That's as much as Kareem Hunt. That's nearly as much as Dalvin Cook. I'm pretty sure that as well with Ezekiel Elliott had about 330 receiving yards. If you're getting a 1,200-yard rushing guy like Jonathan Taylor can be and should be this season, and then he adds in 300 receiving yards, you're laughing, especially at a guy who's being taken as right around, I would say, the 6, 7 right now off the board, maybe even
he's
as
probably
late as 8.
He even is going up higher even sometimes.
Yeah, because it's usually Kamara, and then you're making a decision between Zeke,
JT or Saquon.
Some people Chubb, Saquon, right, exactly. So I think that, look, the offense is probably not going to, I know Frank Reich is going to get to work with Carson Wentz now. I'm not sure the offense is going to live through Carson Wentz. And here's an interesting thing that came from that trade is that there's the conditional pick is on the condition that Wentz plays a certain amount of games
snaps,
or 75% of snaps. So let's picture the Indianapolis Colts, second half of the season aren't having a great year. Carson Wentz isn't playing very well. Look who might sneak into the starting role.
Who?
I'm pretty sure it's is Jacoby Brissett still there?
I don't even know.
I'm pretty sure it's Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett, very serviceable quarterback, but would definitely lead to a lot of carries for Jonathan Taylor. So that's just a little tidbit. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I mean, Carson Wentz was pretty bad last year. So who knows?
There, right? I don't know. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to get a lot of touches. I honestly think though that Zeke will have a higher touch share than Jonathan Taylor will. Like Taylor is dealing with Marlon Mack and Nyheim Hines. Hines is going to get most of the passing work. That team loves to use him on third downs. Marlon Mack, I mean, sure he tore his Achilles last year, so that's going to really hurt him coming to this year, but they're still going to use him. They still like him. And although the coach is saying he's going to be the main guy, it doesn't mean he's going to be the only guy. There's still going to be other guys involved in this offense. And I like JT this year, but I just think other guys like Zeke or Ekeler or someone like that have higher upside than Jonathan Taylor would bring to your offense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Ekeler definitely has a lot of upside. I'm going to bring him up shortly, but I just think Jonathan Taylor is a very reliable, safe option that's if you're looking at it, you think of Jonathan Taylor, he's been a workhorse his entire career. I mean, that's 1 year in the NFL, but especially in college, he's seen a lot of volume, just like guys like Derrick Henry have seen a lot of volume. I think that Jonathan Taylor is a reliable option as the 6th running back off the board. I think he's more reliable than Ezekiel Elliott is. Last season, to me, is very worrisome for Ezekiel Elliott. I'd rather have Jonathan Taylor because I know I can rely on him. I know what to expect from him week in and week out. So let's go from JT at 6 to who you have at number 7.
At 7, I have Saquon Barkley. If you missed last week's episode, we talked about him a lot there, so go check that out. We won't really talk about him too much here. I'm much lower on Saquon than the average person just because I'm worried about the injury a little bit. I think they're going to work him in slowly. I don't know if he's going to get the touches earlier on in the season. And with my first-round pick, I want somebody who has a lot of safety and isn't a risky pick. So that's why I'm a little bit lower on Saquon than most people.
Yeah, I think that sums it up quickly. The reason I'm a little higher on him is that I just see that Jason Garrett's going to want to run the ball a lot more and be getting the ball to Saquon Barkley and keeping it out of Jones' hands as much as possible because Saquon Barkley's taking care of the ball like nobody else has. In college and in the NFL, he's never lost a fumble. So that's the simple way to put it. If you want some more info on Saquon, definitely check out the last video we posted. But let's go to who I have at number 7, who is, we're just going to keep plugging the first video. We're just going to keep plugging it. Austin Ekeler is who I have at number 7. So a little bit behind on Jared with Austin Ekeler. Again, completely agree on the upside. The new coaching staff that's brought in is really looking to, embody the Saints and the 49ers offense in a blend, which we know what running backs can do in those offenses. One thing I am worried about, it's been a little bit of a story the last couple of years with him, is his career touchdown scoring rate. So 37% his career touchdown scoring rate is 37% inside of the 5-yard line. The league average is 45%. Joshua Kelly is someone that, as much as I can't stand Anthony Lynn, he is a player that is a bit heavier and may be relied upon on the goal line. That's where I'm a little bit worried, is just Ekeler getting into the end zone, especially in the short yardage red zone situations that could hinder some of that upside. Running backs who are in the top 3, score a lot of touchdowns. We saw Alvin Kamara score 21 touchdowns last season. So that's the only reason for concern with Ekeler, but I do believe he's got crazy high upside, but I am just a little bit lower on him than Jared is.
Yeah, Eckler's my guy this year. I absolutely love him. I think he does. The touchdowns are the only thing that limit me from putting him as like a top 3 running back. But I do think he will up his touchdown mark this year, especially with the new coaching staff. This is going to be a much
offensive
improved
line helps,
offense.
of course.
Offensive line
will help them score. Definitely.
I love Ekeler this year.
I agree. I do agree. Seven was. I even moved him up a little bit before we recorded because I do like what Jared was saying about him, and
I convinced him a little bit.
My guy,
very
Austin
persuasive.
Ekeler. Let's go from there to number 8.
Yeah, my number 8 is Jonathan Taylor. As Tmack just discussed, I have Taylor a little bit lower than him at 8. I think him, and actually I'll combine him with my number 9 because I have Taylor and Chubb at 8 and 9, and I'm going to combine them because I think they're very similar players. They're both going to have a lot of touches, most of which are carries, a little bit less in the receiving game because they've got guys on their respective offenses that will take some carries away from them there, like Kareem Hunt and then Nyheim Hines, Marlon Mack. They're gonna eat into the workload of both Taylor and Chubb. But these offenses are both going to be very run heavy, going to rely on these guys a lot. The offensive lines are both very good. These guys are going to have high touches, high rushing yards, high touchdowns. That's why I have them both as late first round picks because they're going to give you that back end RB1 upside and a very high floor.
Yeah, very safe. And you said it. So you have Taylor at your 8, Chubb at your 9. Yeah. I have Chubb at my 8. And that leads me to exactly what you're saying. Nick Chubb is in an offense with Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski with the Vikings before he came to Cleveland. Run the ball. That's what he likes to do. Chubb will be that guy. I mean, his middle name might as well be efficiency. He's 5.6 yards per carry on the season last year. One of the best in the NFL.
One of the best pure runners in the league.
Yeah, pure runners. He's one of the best in the league. Completely agree. O-line play is really, really improved last year. It's now probably one of the best O-lines in the NFL. They revamped really well. I'm sure the Chargers are hoping to do the exact same that the Browns did last season. One reason I have him, I pushed Chubb a bit at 8, considering that I had Taylor in at 6, Ekeler in at 7, and then Chubb in at 8. I am a little bit worried about his touchdowns per touch. So he had about 190 carries and then about 15 or 16 catches last year. He did have a 6% touchdown per touch rate. So RBs who finished between that 5 to 7 mark last season, James Robinson, Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, that they sat around 3 or 4%. So of course, I think with a couple games that Chubb missed, he's going to see more touches, but he might see a little bit of regression in the touchdown. In terms of touchdowns, and he did finish as the RB12 last year, so that might kind of balance itself out. And I think he's likely to finish around this RB8 spot, RB9 spot, like you had him at.
Yeah, I like that spot for him. Keep going with your 9 here.
Yeah, God, I got to keep going, but I don't have
I'm too far ahead.
Yeah, I don't have to keep going for long. Ezekiel Elliott, who I have at my 9, I think I made it clear where I stand with Ezekiel Elliott. I do think he still will be a running back 1 this season. I just think we need to. The only way we should be drafting Ezekiel Elliott is if you're getting value on him compared to last season. And I need to see Ezekiel Elliott behind these guys that I just mentioned in order to be willing to draft him. So 9, as the running back, 9 would be the spot that I'd be willing to take Ezekiel Elliott this season.
I just can't see why you would take guys who have much less receiving upside than Elliott has ahead of him.
Look, Ezekiel had 360 yards last year. And I know, yes, with Andy Dalton, but there were 5 games that
What about
Dak
the previous
Prescott,
2 years? It was like 420 and 500.
Right. But again, this isn't the same running back from those previous years. That's what I strongly believe. I strongly believe that he's not the same running back we've seen in years past. And we can't look back to 2018 to 2017 and start saying that this is the same guy, because I really don't believe it is. But that's where I'm at with Ezekiel Elliott, and I don't think me and Jared are going to sit here and have a conversation and be able to agree with each other on it. Let's go to our last guy, who we are finally throughout 6 to 10 we actually agree on.
Yep, we agree on this one here.
Cam Akers, Los Angeles Rams. I swear, when I met Jared, what was it, 2 months ago, this was the guy he continued to talk about. And I think there's a lot of reason to talk about him, and a lot of reason to have him in the top 10 and have him as an RB1 this year. The addition of Stafford. What do you think of the addition of Matt Stafford and the departure of Jared Goff? Does that help the running back carries, hinder it? I have an opinion on it, but I think that's probably something that people might look to to compare with the way Sean McVay calls the game.
I think like most people probably think it will hurt it because they're going to throw the ball more, but I think it helps him a lot. Like having a better offense is always going to benefit the running back. Like it doesn't matter if they're passing more. Like that'll just make the running back more efficient, gives them more goal line opportunities. It'll give him more receiving work too. Like he's going to be more involved in the receiving game. Sean McVay's already said he wants him to be an every down back. Like he's only said good things about Cam Akers. He hasn't really said much about Darrell Henderson. So I think Cam Akers has incredibly high upside in this offense. And they even showed how much they love him down the stretch. Like in his last 5 games, he had 14.4 PPR points per game. That's pretty good for a rookie running back.
Yeah.
And then look at the playoffs. The playoffs were insane. He had a 30-touch game against the Seahawks in the wildcard round. It was literally just him. They just kept giving him the ball, and they won that game because of it. And then in the Packers, he had 19 touches, but he was also the only running back to touch the ball. So clearly they know that they can rely on Cam Akers throughout the entirety of a game. He can be their next Gurley, and I think he has that upside. The only reason I wouldn't have him as like a top 5 guy is because we don't know for sure. Like I think he has a much higher ceiling than a lot of these guys we've already talked about. Just the floor is a lot lower.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. It's efficiency. Matt Stafford is going to make Cam Akers more efficient. He wasn't incredibly efficient last season. I think it was about a 4.6 yards per carry, if I'm remembering that right. And Jared's pointing to these games that were, an injured Jared Goff, and I can't remember the quarterback.
Wolford?
Yeah, Wolford was there as well, even in the playoffs. That doesn't mean that the volume you're going to have that volume. He might not see 30 carries a game, but when he does touch the ball, there's going to be the play action that this offense is built through. That's going to be have the linebackers, have the defense thinking about the pass, and then seeing the run is going to turn his 4.6 yards per carry into 5.6, and that yardage on the season is going to grow. The touches might not be a whole lot more than they were last year. 383 rushing attempts from the running backs, 100 of them from Malcolm Brown, 145 from Akers. So if Akers takes most of those carries from Malcolm Brown, has 240 touches this year, and it's at a 5-yard clip, like we're looking at a guy who also could be seeing the end zone a lot.
Plus gets involved in the receiving game more.
Yeah, receiving game, be in the end zone a lot with a successful, really good offense, and maybe one of the best. I think they should be thought of very highly in terms of Super Bowl contention and a really good season from
one of my favorite Super Bowl picks. Yeah, Rams.
And look to the teams in their division in the NFC West. They're going to be in a lot of competitive game scripts where they're not, going to be falling. I don't see them. If they're running away with games, they might look to use Henderson in games if they're way ahead. But if they're tight and close, we saw in the playoffs, they're going to give Akers the ball because
they trust the guy.
Exactly. Well, those are our top 10 running backs for the upcoming season. Again, subscribe, comment
your top 10.
I want to hear what you guys have, and tell me why Ezekiel Elliott is a top 6.
Tell me why he is.
Anyways, we'll see you guys next week. Wide receiver rankings coming next week. And thank you guys for tuning in.